All right, let's get right into it. Have you ever had that strange feeling? You've got the decent job, maybe a nice car. On the outside, you look successful, but behind the scenes, you're constantly stressed about money? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this hidden financial reality that's affecting millions of people.
Does it ever feel like you're just running on a hamster wheel? You're working harder and harder, but every single month you end up in the exact same financial spot. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you are so not alone. This is a feeling so many people are wrestling with right now. And the scale of this thing, it's honestly staggering. A recent report found that 65%, that's nearly 2 out of every 3 middle-class Americans, say they're struggling financially. And we're not talking about people officially below the poverty line here. These are households with what look like stable incomes, but they're feeling this incredible pressure.
And that pressure, it creates this constant state of just being on edge. Get this, 40% of Americans find it impossible to plan beyond their very next paycheck. That means there is absolutely no buffer, no breathing room for when life happens.
This financial fragility is really at the heart of the whole problem. Nearly half of all Americans, 46%, don't even have $500 saved for an emergency. Just think about that for a second. A single unexpected car repair is enough to send a family spiraling into debt. This is the reality we're diving into today.
So what do we actually call this phenomenon? Well, experts have given it a name: the new poor. Now, this isn't about the kind of poverty that we can see. It's about being trapped in this sort of invisible financial prison, where you might have all this stuff, but you have none of the actual security.
So here's what it really boils down to. It's people who look great on paper, and they definitely look good on social media. But in reality, they're caught in this endless cycle of debt. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and they have absolutely zero real financial peace of mind. As one writer put it, they aren't hungry, but they sure aren't free either.
Let's make this really concrete. Let's talk about Sarah. To the outside world, she's doing great, right? A $55,000 salary, a pretty new car, a nice apartment. That's what everyone else sees. But her actual financial reality, it's a totally different story. She's got $300 in savings, she's carrying over $8,000 in credit card debt, and she's so stretched thin that she's actually avoiding the dentist because she can't swing the copay. Sarah is the face of the new poor.
Okay, so how can you tell if you might be falling into this trap yourself? Well, the sources we're digging into point to several key warning signs. Let's walk through a few of them. And I want you to just honestly ask yourself, do any of these patterns sound a little too familiar? And to make sense of it all, we can kind of group these signs into 3 main buckets. It's all about your spending habits, so how you actually use your money, your financial mindset, how you think about money, and finally, your income and your strategy, or lack thereof, for how you manage what you earn. It's what you do, what you think, and what you plan. Now here is the first major red flag. You're living your life in installments. That mental switch from asking, can I afford this thing, to asking, can I afford the monthly payment? That is a massive trap. You're basically borrowing from your future self to pay for what you want today, and you're chaining your future income to decisions you made in the past. Another huge sign? You are putting in all the hours, you're working your tail off, but you have very little to show for it. And the source material is really clear on this. Hard work without a financial strategy just leads to burnout. It leads to exhaustion without any real progress. You've got to focus not just on earning money, but on having a plan for keeping it and eventually growing it.
And there's a huge psychological piece to this puzzle. The pressure to look successful makes people feel ashamed and isolated when they talk about money. This becomes a core part of the trap because it stops you from realizing that you're not the only one, and it prevents you from reaching out and finding solutions.
And the list keeps going, with all these little threads weaving together to create that invisible prison. Other major signs? Things like emotional spending, using shopping to manage your feelings, falling into that classic trap of comparing your life to everybody's highlight reel on social media, completely neglecting to learn about how money actually works, and of course the incredibly risky strategy of depending entirely on a single paycheck. Okay, so that's the diagnosis. And I know it might sound a little bleak, but recognizing the patterns is always the first step to changing them. So now let's shift gears and talk about the most important part, the action plan. How do you actually break free and start building real financial security?
Look, the path out of this isn't some giant, impossible leap. It's a series of small, deliberate steps. It all starts with being brutally honest with yourself. From there, the key is not to get overwhelmed.
Just pick one behavior to focus on changing for the next 30 days. That's it. And while you're doing that, start investing in your own financial education. Build up a small emergency fund, even just $1,000 to act as a buffer. And please, break that cycle of isolation. Talk to one person you trust about money. Ultimately, the whole game is just this: consistently making the gap between what you earn and what you spend a little bit wider.
And when you boil it all down, that's really what this is all about. Your path to financial freedom isn't going to be some massive overnight transformation. It all starts with the power of a single intentional choice.
This really requires a fundamental shift in your mindset. The real turning point, the game-changing moment, comes when you stop making financial decisions based on what other people might think and you start making them purely for your own long-term security. It's about choosing the feeling of security over the appearance of success. And trust me, that is the real definition of being rich.
So, as we wrap this up, I'm just going to leave you with this question. Understanding these patterns is the first step for sure, but it's action that actually creates change. The journey out of this trap starts with your very next decision. So what is that one different choice going to be for you?